Welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Hey, that's me. Hi, and welcome to Positive Talk. Our show features the best positive stories and people from around the globe as we endeavor to answer the universal question of why am I here and what is my purpose? Understanding that can change everything, and knowing your greatness is fundamental to living your best life. So join us right now as together we work to create the adventure of our lifetime. I am excited that you're here today. I get to talk to some really two of my very best. Well, I don't know if I can say they're best. My best friends. They might not even like me, but I have this radio show. I may come on to this radio show, and But in any event, Dana Parker is here. She is co-hosting with me, and she is the co-author of Know Your Greatness: The Adventure of a Lifetime. And we may talk about that, but we have got a special guest with us today that I'm going to have Dana introduce.
Yes, I'm so honored today because Jenn Gilbreth is one of my incredible friends that I've been so lucky to interact with in this life. And she's one of those people that's just, I don't know, she came into my life and we just connected, and she's just had a special space sense. And it doesn't matter how long we go without talking. When we reconnect, it's just like, hi, good to see you. Like, we just pick right back up. And so it's so wonderful to have Jenn on here. She is a medium, and at that, so incredible at what she does. She is in the process of launching some incredible things that we're going to be talking about that I'm so excited to be promoting and sharing, because I personally know firsthand Jenn's work is incredible. She has blessed my life with readings, and I've been an honored participant in many group settings and one-on-one settings. So Jenn, thank you so much for being here, and we're so excited to chat about all the things today.
Thank you. I'm so excited. That was quite the introduction. So thank you so much.
And she's a really cool chick too.
Yes, that's true. Yes, she is. So Jenn, how have you been?
I have been good. I have been busy, and I am so excited to be back with you guys. It just feels like, my soul feels so happy being here. So thank you.
Good.
Well, we are happy to support you in any way that we can to do the work that you're doing, because it's so needed. And you're part of the grand collective of people that we're assembling here that can work together for the betterment of the planet. And you are one of those. And it's really cool. And you're young, and you're continuing to learn and to grow. And how long have you been doing this now?
I actually hit my 7-year mark just recently.
Congratulations.
Wow.
Thank you. I always talk about 7-year cycles. And so,
yeah,
I'm stepping into this 8th year of mediumship, and I'm excited to see what unfolds with all of that.
Wow. That is so great.
Yeah.
So Jenn, for our people who are just maybe getting an introduction to you just now, can you share a little bit about what being a medium, what that looks like for you and how you approach that?
Yeah, good question. Ever since I was a little girl, I've always felt super connected to the other side. And in fact, it was quite scary, and I had a lot of anxiety that I experienced as a child. And so as I've stepped up and, as I've started to become more of an adult, you could say, as I moved along the ages of life, I found that I kept feeling called right back into mediumship and right back into connecting to our angels and to our ancestors. And it's been such a beautiful journey. I've had full-time jobs outside of the spiritual realm, and every time I just keep feeling like I get called back in. And so I just know that helping people, connecting to our ancestral roots, delivering messages from those who may have a lack of closure or who are just really struggling or just want to be connected to their loved ones. Things show up like that quite often as well. And so I just feel so grateful to be a channel for whatever spirit has to offer, because it truly is, life is so dense at times And so when we connect into the spirit realm, I just find that they want to offer support, but they also want us to know that we're not alone, nor do we have to feel like we're alone. Like we have this extra power support team on the other side. And as long as we're able to call upon them, ask upon them, they will show up to us in many beautiful ways.
I love that. What's your favorite part? Like, what's your favorite part about the process in which you work and delivering these messages to people? What do you notice about what they experience?
Yeah, I find it so rewarding when I first meet with somebody and I can almost feel like a heaviness, or I can see this deep sadness in their eyes. And even just after an hour and a half of a call, when they leave, I feel and I can see this lightness about them again. And that's just one of the most rewarding things, is just channeling in that information to help someone's really life projection completely change. So it's been really amazing. And I also love hearing people's confirmations, even afterward, where maybe something didn't make sense in the process and then a couple weeks later it's like, "Oh, that makes total sense." Or, maybe a mom who had a child pass away at a young age. I love receiving messages of them being like, "I feel finally connected to them. They're sending me signs and I can feel their presence now." And so it's just really fun to kind of help open up the door where a lot of disbelief or a lot of numbingness can happen. And so it's like punching holes into this cloud of maybe uncertainty, and then all of a sudden they bring in more connection themselves, and that's so rewarding.
Oh, that's so beautiful. Yeah, this week, it reminds me of something I learned this week about how important it is to understand that not everything in this world can be resolved through logic or the mind, and how important it is for people like us to be reminding people of that to bring in that spiritual aspect to things, and to bring in that inner sense of knowing is really important along with the mind. Because a lot of times I think in this world we become so dependent on logic and the mind that we throw out spiritual things. And so I think that's the beauty of what you bring to the table and remind people of with the work that you do. So thank you.
Thank you. Can I add one thing to that, Dana?
Mhm.
Is I like to talk about, we have the right brain and the left brain. And our right brain is more of the free flowing, it's more of the spiritual, the creative. And the left side is like the go-getter, get things done, questioning things. And so I always talk to people too about how during a session, it's like I turn the volume down on the left side and then raise the volume up on the right side so that I can just receive whatever comes in. And I've done that with quite a few people, even just like in meditation or when I work with people who are strengthening their own spiritual gifts. And it's like, focus in on like when you want to get stuff done. It's like, okay, sometimes you need to have more of that left brain trying to figure it out. But then when you want to be in a state of receiving, sometimes you just need to raise the volume a little bit more, energetically, to just like allow more information to come in too. And
I
it's been
love
awesome.
that. That is such a good way of viewing it. And what's so cool, what I know as a hypnotist, is the subconscious mind sees in pictures. So if you're like, I don't know what she's talking about, how do I do that? Well, the subconscious mind in your body, everything listens to the pictures you feed it most. So literally, if you just imagine a knob turning up and turning down, like imagine that and see yourself doing it, you will start to experience that. So that's so
That's
cool.
cool. I love
I
that.
love that.
Yeah,
I
that's awesome.
had never heard anybody say it exactly that way before. So congratulations.
I like that. That's awesome.
Yeah. Cool.
Perfect.
So let me ask you. I gotta ask you a question. When you're channeling, do you know who you're channeling? Do you feel like it's a collective? Do you feel like it's a bunch of your guides who got together and they said, "Well, let's tell her this," and no, let's tell her this, and then we'll. And how does it work for you?
Yeah, I actually see channeling in layers, and so I call it like the layers of channeling. And actually, I've been recently been really feeling called to doing like a 2.5 day workshop about learning about each of these channeling layers, because there is these different layers of channeling where, the first one is kind of more in the around your body and like in your body. And then it kind of goes out into your loved ones that have passed. Then it goes to your ancestors that you know of, like 3 to 6 generations. And then you have your ancient ancestors sit like 8 generations back. And then I also see like above is, connecting into your higher self, your like the galactic, Heavenly Father, Mother, that kind of energy. And then you can also kind of tap into the lower area too, which is, animal totems, plants that can help, different elements that can bring someone back into a beautiful space of healing. And so it's interesting because I like tap into different layers, and certain times people will, when I step into their space or when they meet with me, it's like all of a sudden I'm like called to one specific layer, and then I'll bring in messages there. And then it's almost like just being called to the different layers that have different effects on people. It's very interesting.
Beautifully said. Oh my gosh. I want to like create an image of that because it's so beautiful.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's fun because it also shows that there are so many different kinds of channeling too. And I think that so often when people think about channeling, it's like, oh, if I'm not a medium, I can't channel. But really there's layers to it where if you're doing energy healing or body work, or you're connecting into people's higher self, and you kind of just know and see maybe what their higher self is saying. Or even channeling like our galactic family or animal totems. Like, it sounds kind of crazy, but it's all there. Everything is energy, everything has a consciousness. And when we put our attention towards those kinds of things, we can receive really beautiful contact.
Mm-hmm.
Does that answer your question, Kevin?
Yes. But I did want to add one little itty bitty teeny weeny thing. And that is, if you don't feel comfortable necessarily talking to the galactic folks, or getting really into the quote unquote, I guess you would call it the woo-woo side.
Right.
One of the things that I'm talking about a great deal, and with Dana's help, Know Your Greatness, the adventure of a lifetime. You don't have to be overt about any of it. You can be quiet and just quiet your mind, let the intuition come in, act on, trust the intuition, and to move forward with that. And sometimes it helps to have someone like Jenn who can help you kind of make that push. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, bringing it back into this physical realm as well. My dearest friend, and we all know her, Candace. I studied with her for a while with shamanic practitioner work, and I love what she always says is, we are a spirit having a physical experience, but we're also here in this meat suit. And a lot of times in this meat suit, we forget that we are greater than what we're experiencing right here, right now.
Mm-hmm.
And so having connection to divine support, whether that be guides or your higher self, or even to what your heart is calling you to do, I believe that your heart is the gateway between like divine and the world. And so really when we can calm ourselves and listen to our heart, whether or not someone believes in guides or angels or anything like that, our heart will never lead us astray with information, because we are divine. Before we come here, we are divine beings. When we leave this world, we once again are those divine beings in the spirit form. And so having divine connection and understanding is innately who we are. We just sometimes forget about it because this meat suit is so dense.
And I just want to point out that is a particularly sexy way of looking at our bodies.
Meat suit.
Yep.
It's such a good way to put it. It's kind of like it is what it is. I
Yeah.
love it. So, Jenn, I have a question for you that I'm interested in understanding. So, you know how we have certain experiences with our ancestors, our loved ones in this life, and then they pass on. Is it possible for us to continue having filters that maybe are not necessarily true for how they are now that they've transitioned to the other side? Like I wonder that with myself and my grandparents. And I've wondered that for a while of like, because there's a part of me that has felt like, because I know how they lived and what they valued and what they cared about, and I'm not living that same way. I'm not choosing that any longer. And so I get nervous to connect because I'm like, oh, because I get scared of being a disappointment. Does that make sense?
Yes. Is there a specific grandfather that is like
Yeah.
I feel like when you're talking about that, I feel this grandfather come in who almost is like, I feel like he could be very loving, but it almost feels like his energy was very much so like you have to fall in line with what his thoughts were, how he experienced things, and if it was opposite of that, it was harder for him to
Love.
even like accept you or even like have you around. It's like if you don't believe in something or if you don't show up that way, it's better for you just to be cut off
Yes.
than to come around, right?
Oh, that is exactly why there's been so many moments that I'm like, I'm so glad they're not here, because I loved them so dearly and they meant so much to me. And there's so much of my grandpa that lives on in me that I'm very, very proud of. Like the big heart, willing to see greatness in anyone, talk to anyone. But there's a little bit of unresolved of like, I know that side of grandpa.
Yeah. Yeah, it's very beautiful. Is it okay if I bring in some information for you, Dana? And
Yes.
we'll also touch upon everything else, right? Because it also feels like part of his experience was to see things kind of in a black and white. I wouldn't say he's like not saying it's black and white, but more of a darker gray. Where it's like it's got to be this way. But like cuz I say it's not black or white cuz I feel like a lot of times we think of black and white as like either you're loved or you're not loved. It's
Yeah.
good or it's bad. And I just feel like there's this energy that's coming in with him about seeing things in different shades of light and dark
Yeah.
and also seeing the different experiences. It's kind of like a wavelength where there's some that are high and low and but if you pull back and you see the whole thing, it's like this beautiful audio piece. And so it's almost like I see him saying that in his life it was easy to kind of get stuck on or try to control how the sound was showing up in his little corner of life. But pulling back to see like the full scale of the world or a family beyond, it's almost like I see him saying that every person has their own harmony or their own melody that they are here to contribute to like this beautiful choir of the earth. And so I see him like pulling back and saying like, wow, I can see how everyone has their own harmony, they have their own music, they have their own contribution, that if you lean in, you can hear everyone's single solo audio. But as you pull back, you can see that it's all connected. And so it feels like there's a lot of freedom in that aspect that he's bringing forward, and also this space of letting you know that he knows where you're at. He knows your heart and he knows who you are. And he also knows that you do talk to him a lot or you do think of him a lot, even if it's
I
like I see
do.
you in the car and it's like, oh, I wonder how he would be or what he would. And then it's like, nope, I don't want to let that in. And I just see him saying, he's there, he's writing, he's your ride or die partner. He's there to help you make those decisions that feel good to your heart, but he also wants to support you because he can see that everyone has their own harmony. They have their own life path, and your life path is unique to you. And maybe you are living a life that he wouldn't have, but that doesn't make him any less proud of you because he doesn't know your full soul's mission, your full soul's harmony, or your full soul's song that is to be sung here. And I just see him saying, like, Dana, it's beautiful. Your song, your voice, your power is beautiful. And so he's like, so stop this worry of that because that's no more.
Stop sending me out.
Yeah, he's like, in fact, I could teach you some things about the harmony, about life, about what I want to experience. And so I just see him really wanting to almost like make that connection and channel to you and for you and with you through like writing, but also your mind. He's like, your mind is so sharp. You think of things, you learn things logically, and you also bridge things into the spiritual realm. And I see him saying that he was very much so like that, just in his own way. And so I like see this rainbow bridge that you guys can connect on, where it's like, okay, here's the spirit, here's the physical, and let's meet in between. And I just see him saying he's like dancing on this rainbow bridge, that he wants to have that connection with you as well. And then I see this short little grandma who crosses her arms and folds her, like she crosses her leg and folds her arms and is like, ditto. Like, don't forget about me. I can't be forgotten about.
Oh, my grandma was so cute. And she loved everyone's unique soul, their unique expression. She really honored that, even though I don't know that she let herself do that in this life, live that, you know?
Did she like to use a lot of blush? Or I like see her like go like this and like powder her cheeks for some reason.
That's so funny. Well, she loved style. Like she had these blazers, these colorful blazers that I actually kept because I want to wear them in my work. And what I do, because they're like a lavender one, and then there's like a really like a magenta fun one. And she had this, I loved her clothes. Like I picked out some of her clothes because I loved them. When she passed, I was like, I really want these because grandma she had a way of presenting herself. So I think we both loved beautiful things, like to feel beautiful.
Yeah. She's definitely got like a very beautiful, like just gorgeous, like just like, you know, when you see someone like that, you're like, oh, that person's very beautiful. Yeah. And it's just like they just claim that when they walk into the room. But I just see her like, ditto, like, don't forget about me. And then she's like, oh, like making herself like all ready to go.
That's so cute.
Hey, Jenn, I just want to say you have continued the streak.
What's the streak?
The number of shows in a row where Dana has cried.
Yeah. No, it's so good every time.
I love it. It's perfect.
So yeah. Every show we managed to jerk a couple of tears out of her one way or another.
It happens. It's part of my beautiful gift that is me to feel everything so deeply.
Yes, and that's definitely what I admire about you, because I feel very vulnerable, letting emotion show a lot. I think many of us are that way. So you always wear it on your sleeve, and you're such a good example of that, because emotions are like the magic sauce of life, but we don't really always feel it because it's scary.
It's so true. It's very vulnerable, and it is, and especially in our world, the way we look at it sometimes, or we're judged for it. And you know, I've received a lot of verbal feedback in my life about my emotions, and now that I know more about me, though, that's my favorite part about understanding like my astrology, my gene keys, human design, things like that, is I'm a double Pisces, meaning I feel very deeply, and that is okay and normal. And that's part of what I'm here to speak to, is those people who do, and let's bring balance to that. So thank you for honoring that in me. I receive it.
It's beautiful.
Dana, I just have to ask, because I just got told this, and it's when I'm around you people, it just drives me crazy, because I'm getting the impression that somebody in your life at one time said, "Oh, Jiminy Christmas, there she goes crying again."
Oh yeah, major male figures in my life that were, yes, that is very, very common. And in fact, my mom's a Pisces. Her birthday is just a week after mine, and they still say things like that about her. So it's kind of an ongoing joke in my family. And there's for me, a little bit of like, I've had to power through some of that programming and say, you know what? No, I accept this. And it is strength, because it takes courage to feel that deeply. It really does. Mm-hmm. It takes courage to really feel and to tune in and to allow yourself. Anything spiritual, I really do feel, is vulnerable, because there's a vulnerability in opening yourself up and tuning into something that you cannot see.
Yeah.
Especially in this world where we value really heavily what we can see and what's logical. And so to do that, there's a level of vulnerability, but it's kind of what makes things exciting, you know? It's kind of what makes the adventure is that ability to tune into that and to be like, no, I'm brave for doing this and I'm going to do it because I value it, because it means a
Yeah.
lot to me.
And also, how often, if people are stepping into their greatness and they're allowing themselves to start really seeing who they are and letting down the walls of what maybe they've put up there because that's what you're told to do to be successful, right? Is
Mhm.
there is an aspect of breaking those walls down, and it is very vulnerable. It's very vulnerable to go to those parts of ourselves that maybe others have made wrong, or even those spiritual gifts that we may have that as a child we were taught that's not normal. Shut that down, don't talk about it.
Mhm.
And part of this journey is stepping into your greatness is also having that vulnerable aspect of remembering. And
Mhm.
it can be scary and difficult, and so that's why I love what you guys are up to here is because we need that. You know, we
Yeah.
need those people's I always call it like their medicine. Like what
Mhm.
they came here to experience that helps them heal, it helps them be empowered, but then they can help other people by sharing that medicine or by sharing that wisdom. And emotions is a beautiful, embracing and honoring and owning your emotions is such a powerful part of people's healing journey. And so I really love that.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, Jen, I got to ask you, does Grandpa say that Dana is going to be a star of conferences and one-on-one coaching, or is she going to be a great radio host?
I think it's going to be both.
All the things.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that he also wants to acknowledge that just because your life path looks different and not everybody understands why you've chosen life path that you have, that's also part of the magic is when we rely so heavily on other people's approval or other people's acceptance, we lose ourself in the process. And so I just see him saying like all these past it feels like these past 7 years really there's been this release and like this constant shedding, and it's to step into this courage but to also teach that that courage is possible regardless of how other people perceive your lived truth. That's part of the journey. And so it's almost like I see him orchestrating all these different people across this rainbow bridge to bring their families to you or those people who also have a similar life path so that they can hear those words, but it can ignite that spark within them that gives them the courage to honor their truth and to honor their heart regardless of what others have to offer or what others say to hold us back. And so I just see him like, even though it's been a bumpy path, like he's like, I'm here and I'm also here to bring all these people with you and to you so that as you keep standing up, as you keep sharing your voice, as you keep touching into your heart, others will show up in like miraculous ways. But it's bigger than just this physical world.
Yeah. That makes so much sense to me because my grandpa and grandma were such inclusive gatherers. Like we would take our dates, like when we have group dates, we'd take them over to their house and introduce them to them because they would feed everyone and like welcome everyone in with open arms, ask questions. They were so personable and calling on them for that. Like I sent to my grandpa this great gatherer like me.
Mm-hmm.
Like gather around, let's tell stories. That's what we did as a family. Like that was family culture for us. And so to call on him to support that and to feel that support in that aspect feels so liberating for me and
Yeah.
so wonderful to know he's on my team. So thank you. And it makes so much sense. It's really been through the last 7 years of reclaiming myself because I did lose myself in the tribe and the family and the this is how I need to show up so I'm going to because everyone else expects it. I have found greater strength than I ever knew I had, that I never want to let go again, that I never want to give away again, that I define me and I will always honor my sparkly heart is actually the affirmation that started it all in 2007 years ago. I honor my sparkly heart, and I'm never going back. So yeah, thank you.
I love
And nor
that.
should you. By the way,
Right.
Jen, I have to say that we've worked together. Have you been on the show for a couple of years now?
Yeah.
You've been working hard at your craft. You are really good.
Thank you.
The way that you phrase it, the way that you talk about it, the way that how you make it so easy to understand, you're going to transcend in your lifetime a huge barriers of people that are like, what did he say? You're going to be able to fix it all really, really easily and really make it go. So congratulations. I've got to tell you,
Yeah.
you need
Thank you.
you have got a permanent home here on Positive Talk. Anytime you want to show up, you're welcome.
Well, I'm so honored. And when you say that, part of this journey for me has been in childhood and growing up. I always felt stupid. I always was like, I have more of a simple mind. I'm very things don't make sense a lot to me, but I'm very visual. And so spirit speaks to me very visually. And I also really have tried to hone in that when I am delivering messages, it's almost like trying to broadcast as well, so people can visualize what is being said as well. And I found that visualizing and sharing this visual, I feel like everyone can, not everybody, but most people can have a deeper understanding, because that's just how I've learned, and that's more of the simple. I'm not saying I'm a simple-minded person, but very, very to the basics. It's like, oh, if you can visualize it or sense it or see it in your mind, it's easier to comprehend.
Yeah.
But in your work, that's going to be very, very consequential, because you're going to be able to talk not down to people, but across to people, rather than them not understanding what you're saying.
Yeah.
Speaking of visualizing, we have to visualize this, and we'll be right back in just a minute.
You're listening to Brushwood Media Network, the best in syndicated talk, news, and entertainment shows.
As you go about your daily life, look closer. As you gather with family and friends who love and support you, look closer. There are youth right in your community who don't have the home, warmth, and healing you have. So look closer. Every year across America, a staggering 4.2 million youth are homeless or trafficked. And for 50 years, Covenant House has worked relentlessly to keep them safe and protected. Tonight, 2,000 young people will sleep safely in a Covenant House bed. And tomorrow, they will wake up surrounded by love. They get clean clothes, hot meals, medical care, and a safe place to sleep. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. In sites across America to help them fulfill the great promise of their lives. So look closer at Covenant House. To help or get help, go to covenanthouse.org.
And welcome to Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. Nice to meet you. I am glad you're here. We've got Dana Parker is my co-host always on Friday whenever I can get her here, and Jenn Gilbreth is our guest today. She's a psychic medium. She's got her own podcast, which we're going to talk about in a little bit, which is Blessed by Angels. And but it's not fair, because we got to talk to Dana's grandparents. Can we talk to my mom or dad, please?
Yes, Kevin, let's do that. I know, I was like, we need to see what's coming in with that. And part of this experience that keeps popping in that I feel like I want to address, and we'll see kind of how this all plays out too, but I feel like there is this higher, spirit is just wanting to bring in this awareness of the rainbow bridge and about a soul's transition on the other side. And I also think that, Kevin, I don't know if we've ever actually brought in your dad before.
I don't know that we have.
I think that we've had your mom come in, but I don't think that we've had your dad come in. So I almost feel like he's part of this connection. Was there a distance between you and your dad? Did it feel like this? I
My
don't know.
my dad, when I was younger, was an executive with Nordstrom. He worked 6 days a week. He really didn't like children, and so there was a distance between us. In that, the only connection that we had was the fact that I was such a fabulous football player and stuff, an athlete. But as far as no, we were very, very distant.
Okay, that makes sense because I feel like I want to bring him in, but it almost feels like there's this big gap, like this emotional gap. And so that's why I was like, wait, I got to address this distance. And maybe it might not feel as much now, but I just feel like he wants to acknowledge that aspect. But talking in with the Rainbow Bridge, and I feel like his experience, he wants to talk about what this is and how this has affected him. Is I've seen that when souls cross over, they're welcomed by loved ones, but they're also welcomed to walk across this rainbow bridge. And it's almost like I see that each color of this bridge is a different major soul lesson that they were to learn in this physical life. And a lot of times, even going with Dana, like what you're saying is, how we perceived them here, could there be different filters, or are they completely different on the other side? And I find that a lot of times as they walk through this rainbow bridge, they're able to see how they affected other people, how other people affected them, and like them stepping into their own voice, their own heart, their own lifetime. And so it's almost like I see your dad like wanting to acknowledge as he's gone through this transition and looked at his life. It's almost like I can see where a lot of times he was very distant from people, but it felt like very emotionally distant. And it's funny because we're talking about emotions with Dana, right? Is it feels like he didn't have that. And it was almost like it wasn't comfortable and it wasn't easy to have emotional connection to people. And even like to family, even to close people where you think it should be easy, it felt like it was just very uncomfortable and just this very itchy, like energy. Like it's better to just not feel it or experience it or have that. What are you saying, Dana?
Nothing.
It sounded like you were adding something in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it did for a second. I think it was just an echo.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah, I know.
I'm like, oh, that was interesting. And so it feels like part of his journey on the other side is I'm like seeing this color blue, and it feels like part of this blue coloring of him looking at this disconnection, or this, it really is like feeling disconnected from himself in a way where if you're not really like getting in tune with who you are, how in the heck are you supposed to be in tune with other people? And it felt like staying busy, working with your hands, keeping things going, like the outward appearance felt like that was where he received a lot of validation, a lot of insight, a lot of people outside seeing him to be a certain way. And so it's interesting because I see him like discovering this blue path, and I see him acknowledging that he did feel distant and disconnected, and it wasn't anything to do with you. It wasn't about you. And in fact, part of your journey and who you've been for him is you have been someone who is very emotionally connected to people. You could talk to someone for 5 minutes and feel like you are soul to soul tribe. And when someone is so unaware, or so like that's a weakness that they have people show up in their life who are there to reflect, hey, this could be healed, this could be looked at. And it felt like you were that for him in many, many, many different facets. And so I see him saying this whole blue rainbow part of this bridge has been looking at the mirror that you were holding up for him. And I see him acknowledging that he has never been disappointed in you. It was a disappointment within himself. And so I just see him wanting to like really reiterate that with you, that it was never you. And also that he is like, I'm going to be in this giant blue robe like surrounding me like, I got this effing lesson down. And he's like swearing, like he wants to drop the F-bomb, he wants to do all the things. And it's like he's got it, he's working on it. Like that's part of his soul expression right now, is learning and growing and experiencing. And so it's just really fun. And so I see him acknowledging, he's like, son, I want to show up for you. I want to help you to know that I see your connection and your emotion as such a beautiful power stance instead of a weakness. And he's like, I'm sorry that I didn't see that in the physical world as well, but it was because it was looking at you, was looking at me, and I didn't like what I was seeing in me when I looked at you. Does that make sense?
Perfectly. You have no idea how many days I spent in my room because my dad didn't want to deal with me. And so it was, but, and it's not that he was a bad guy. He was an executive with Nordstrom. Everybody called him Mr. McDonald because he would wander around, and he had this great big pool of these people who respected him. But he was never Jack. That was his name. And so nobody respected Jack. It was always Mr. McDonald.
Mm. Yeah.
So you, my dear, are like spot on.
Wow.
And he's never come through ever before.
And you've never shared anything with her about him.
No.
I didn't even know those things. I didn't even know his name was Jack. That's fun.
Yeah, I didn't actually even know that he had passed in previous times, because I'm like, I've never connected to his spirit before, and we've been on this podcast quite a few times, and it's never come forward yet. But this whole rainbow bridge aspect of how people can change and how they are called to look at these weaknesses, or we look at them here as weaknesses, but really on the other side, it's these major soul lessons that we chose to learn. And so sometimes those hardest parts of us, when we cross over, we look at that bridge, we can see the different shades of the blue, right? There's dark blue, light blue, shimmery blue, sparkly blue, dull blue, and it's all different ways that this life lesson has showed up for us. And so we get to look at all the different experiences. So people think, oh, they were this way. And a lot of people are hesitant because they're like, what if this person's really disappointed in me? Or what if they're only going to say negative things? But they're also very aware of their soul's lessons and what they're learning. So as they cross over, they're able to really take these pieces of life and then really bridge it back into their soul's essence so it can continue to grow if they so choose to. They don't have to cross the bridge. They can stay in this area, people call it like in almost like this purgatory state, or like this state of non-growth, this state of not wanting to take accountability or acceptance of life. And that's fine. They can stay there. But it's really the growth occurs as they cross over and they look at their life, they take in the lessons so their soul can expand. And then they can be there for their loved ones in the physical world in a different way.
Can I just exemplify that just a little bit? Because he was an avid golfer, and I've been told by other mediums that he was playing golf all the time. So I think he did that for a number of years until he got tired of it and decided that this was a superficial, afterlife existence. And so then he decided he wanted to have more, or somebody may have pushed him to it. I did. While you're still there, I got to ask you: are you proud? Or am I spending your money the right way? Is the legacy that I'm working to leave with you? Is that? Am I doing okay?
Far, far greater than what he could have ever imagined. And he says that you have used your resources, your time, and your energy in ways that he wouldn't have even anticipated in his life to be a possibility for him. And so I just see him wanting to acknowledge that he really, Kevin, is very proud of who you are and of the healing, because he's like, you have done a lot of healing. You've done a lot of you've done a lot to find yourself and find peace in yourself and find purpose. And I just see him saying that he also wants to help bring those people who, maybe like who maybe they're stuck or maybe they're feeling like he did, and also like have them show up in your space. And so I just see him saying he's very proud. He wants to let you know how much he loves you and cares for you, but also that he doesn't want you to feel like you have to be alone any longer. You don't have to be that little boy shut in the room, not being heard or seen or loved like you did as a child with him. And in fact, he wants you to be big. He wants you to show up bigger and really for people to see you and recognize you standing up, standing into that spotlight versus having to hide away because you weren't loved or seen or valued. He's like,
I don't know what you're talking about.
I want to make it happen. I want to make it happen. I want to share. I want to be with you. And it's also his way of almost like trying to help recover some of those soul wounds that that were placed here from him.
Good friggin' Lord, lady.
So what we're saying is he is helping Kevin and connecting things so that Kevin has great success in this.
Yes.
Yeah.
So he can be seen and heard and valued.
Yeah.
Valued is a big, big, big one. Seen,
Yeah.
heard, and valued.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He cares a lot about doing that for you and really recovering this. And I can imagine he's probably been inspired by you. You've been on quite the healing journey, and watching you in the background as he's golfing, it's probably like, well, that's meaningful.
Yeah. When you said that, I could like envision we literally I live in an apartment right now, and on one side is a golf course, like the first 9 holes, and the other side is the other 9 holes. So it's like I'm surrounded by a golf course.
Yeah.
But it's funny because when you say that, it's almost like I see him like getting ready to like, whatever the word is, to swing. And it's like, yeah, it's like in the clouds. It's like, here's Kevin's life, and it's like playing out in the clouds. He's watching it, and it's like, okay, you just keep going, and it just follows him everywhere.
Yep, everywhere. It's so cute. Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
beautiful.
Jen, I got to tell you, if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how do they do it? That's is worth the price of admission. I got to tell you.
Blessedbyangels.org is my website. Yeah, so blessedbyangels.org is a great place. It's Jenn Gilbreth online, on social media. I have a lot of like really fun resources on my website. As you mentioned before, Kevin, I also have a new podcast that is also called Blessed by Angels, because in this podcast, it's really messages that have come forth before. Whether or not I'm kind of recapping what I learned during a session. The thing is sometimes sessions are so personal that it's like you don't want to air out someone's intimate space, right? So sometimes I will like record a podcast where I'm talking about a session, what I learned, and kind of delivering that message. Where I've also recently started adding little clips to other people's sessions, not where it's about their big personal experiences, but these beautiful messages that come in as well. And it's something that I've always wanted to do, but like Dana said, spirituality is very vulnerable. And when you meet with someone in person, like even me delivering a message to both of you, right, it can feel very vulnerable. It's like, oh, how do they know all this? What is she like? All these different aspects that are coming in. So it's very vulnerable for the person who's receiving, but it's also very vulnerable for me because it's like opening up my heart, opening up my soul. And I have had times where people are like, no, I don't agree with that. I'm not okay with it. Right. And so there's this vulnerable aspect. So I've always wanted to do it, but I just haven't had the courage to have a podcast about that specifically. And so it just feels like it's time. Over New Year's Eve, we went to this fireworks show at a ski resort, and I just kept feeling like, what does my new goal need to be? What do I need to be focusing on? And I just had my higher self, I call her Gemma. She's this feisty, like kind of like this fairy energy where she's like here to like, shake some stuff up, but also very empowering. And she was like, you know what? You need to not set new goals. You need to have it, instead of it being a new beginning, it's a new ending. because I have so many things. I have so many things in the works, but I never actually finish them. And so this year is the year of new endings. It's bringing all of these things that have come into life, and the podcast is definitely one of them. And I have a book coming out soon. It's also going to be called Blessed by Angels. And I also have an oracle deck that's also going to be coming out as well. So just all the things this year
All the
coming
things.
in.
Good for you.
Love it.
Congratulations. You've been working hard at it, and it's
Mhm.
but you also do you feel like that you have a gift, and that gift needs to be honored, and so you need to speak up?
That's a good point, a good way to put it. I guess I don't look at it that way because, like, at the outside perspective, because I can get kind of stuck in the mud, like kind of in the muck of like having to get things done or how does this show up, you know? But yeah, I guess overall I would probably say that. And it's mostly because I feel like these messages are so transformative and they help people really recognize why we're here. And the last thing I would want is anyone to cross over and look back at their life and be like, "What the heck? I didn't do anything." Like, I didn't do anything that I really felt called to do. And with the uptake of social media, constantly scrolling, constantly outside of our intimate self, I feel like more and more society can cross over and realize, like, what did I really accomplish? Did my soul feel really fulfilled? And so I feel like these messages are really here to help people regroup and to remember, like, that they have this time right here, right now. No one has tomorrow, no one has the next hour, but also, what are we wanting to really experience in life? Because we don't have forever in this physical journey. And so I feel like the messages really are here to help people embrace more of what their soul came here to do versus to be numb and just like numb out from why we came here. So
Dana?
that's a big part.
Yeah. That's huge. Dana? You're
Yeah,
you're awfully quiet over there.
I know
that's because
I've been talking way too much.
I know that's the point. Is I'm loving this so much, and my mind's just I'm thinking about it actually. Honestly, a couple of people in my life that recently have had loved ones pass, and some in some really hard ways, and how I want to text them after this and just be like, hey, you need to contact my friend Jen and follow her, and just have a session when you're ready. So that's honestly what I'm thinking over here and why I'm so quiet.
Oh,
Well, I feel so honored for that. So thank you.
Jen, I've got one that I don't think that you'll be able to do, but because this goes back 50 years. I had a high school sweetheart that I recently found out that she passed away 2 years ago. We were together for 2 years. Then she dumped me for my backup on the football team, Paul, you butthead. And then they stayed together. They ended up getting married. She passed away at 65. And I'm curious to know if she would have anything that she would like to say to me. She hasn't, well, she's been gone a couple of years now. Or whether, does she even remember who the hell I was?
That's a good question there. I feel like I need to just take a minute because instantly when you're asking about that, I feel a big, like I feel a lot of you know when someone has like acid reflux or like I just feel like this burning in my throat and it's really hard to breathe right now. Like I have to kind of clear that out. Did she have brown curly hair?
No, she had blonde, straight, long hair.
Oh, so quite the opposite of that. Hmm. That's interesting. I gotta sit with that for a minute because I'm feeling just this here, but it's weird because when you were talking, I was envisioning this girl with blonde or with brown, like curly hair. So
The acid reflux emotionally can mean something not digesting something about life properly. Sometimes that's
Well,
an
the other
angle.
thing is you have to remember I haven't seen her in 50 years.
So she could.
She could have
She could have
changed
been
her look.
dyeing her hair and straightening it.
Yes, or curling it or doing whatever you guys do.
Yeah.
So I don't have any earthly idea.
I straightened my
Yeah.
hair for years.
Oh, you did? And you have
Yeah.
like the most beautiful curly hair.
Thank you.
Let me just do my out call and see if anything kind of shows up here. I know I don't want to be too quiet. I don't want to have the dead quiet
good.
energy here,
You're
but
doing great.
sometimes you have to sit into that space for a minute here.
Mhm.
Well, you concentrate on that, and Dana, I just want to thank you for reconnecting Jenn to us. I'm not even sure how we did this, but this is really, really cool, and she's really, really talented.
I know, it's so much fun.
And if this girl were to come through, it would be unbelievable. But I don't think she wants to, quite frankly. But,
I kind of get that sense too, a little bit, like maybe she's not ready and it's too public or too out there. There's some of that I get a feeling, but maybe that's Kevin's stuff that I'm feeling too. It's so possible.
No, because it's like I tried to, I'm like doing this, I do like kind of this call out, like if they want to come forward, and all I can see is like this dove, and it's like I see this dove living life in like this, it's like I see this dove in a tree over there, but it's like I can't get to the tree, and the tree isn't willing to come to me, like the bird isn't willing to come to me.
Yeah.
So it's just like this big giant, like this beautiful dove that's like happy with the life that it is a part of.
it makes perfect sense. It makes perfect sense because she never got on Facebook. She became a recluse kind of thing, and I don't know why, but that was, I mean, it was 50 years ago, so who knows? So
yeah,
but
so
Jenn,
there's, I don't know, something with that.
don't worry about it. Let's go through your information again, because we're going to run out of time.
Yes. Okay, so I'm Jenn Gilbreth. You can look up JennGilbreth. I forgot to spell my last name. And it's blessedbyangels.org.
You're just turning up that side of the brain.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. What is that?
You're like, wait a minute, I gotta even this out. Like, okay.
Yes.
And Dana, we got a minute left. I want you to tell us anything you'd like us to know about her.
Yeah. Contact Jenn for a personal session. If you have friends that want to get together, group session, follow her. She has so many. I can tell you, a lot of my clients rave about Jenn. Like they're watching her, they're following her, they're taking classes from her here and there, and it's been so much fun to see the value add that my clients have also received from Jenn. So I highly recommend you looking her up. Be on the lookout for her oracle cards and her book. And we'll keep promoting her. We'll keep sharing.
Thank you so much.
And you are you're perfect.
You're so good at this. It's been really fun.
And you're a great human being, and you care for people, and you do this for all the right reasons.
Well, thank you so much. That means so much, and I love being with you guys. And it's funny because I actually, like that call that I was saying, is I was having this thing. I'm like, I want to get back in touch with Kevin and Dana. And then I reached out to Dana. And then a couple weeks later, you commented on my post, the new podcast post.
That's right.
And so it was just like this whole, like, I felt like it was time for us to come back together, but I didn't know the best way. And so it just like kind of unfolded perfectly.
That's how it is. That's how it happens.
Yeah, it's
That's
beautiful.
Work. So Dana Parker, thank you. Your information.
Yes, you can find me at innerworldmovement.com or email me at info@innerworldmovement.com. I'm on Facebook, Instagram. You can find me on there. I'm doing some really fun, exciting things. So would love for you to follow me on there.
And she's my coach, and I stand by her. She is remarkable, as is Jen. Thank you both so much for being here. You guys, it makes my world so easy. Thanks, guys. Hey, thanks for listening to this episode of Positive Talk with Kevin McDonald. We are a production of KMmedia.pro, a full-service media company. Whether it is audio, video, shorts, or longer pieces, we're able to take each project from beginning to final product within your time frame and on budget. Visit KMmedia.pro for more details about us and to get started on your project. We also would like to thank the Brushwood Media Network for all their support. Go to brushwoodmedianetwork.com to find out more about them and the quality shows featured on the network. Until then, we'll see you next time. My name again is Kevin McDonald, and please remember, be kind to one another because